Hey, Cameron McKenzie here, the editor-in-chief over at TheServerSide.com, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at CameronMCNZ. And I've got a little submodules tutorial here. Now, this is actually a collection of 5 or 6 different individual tutorials that I've got on the server side. And what this is going to do is it's just going to take you through the whole process of everything that's important about submodules to make you effective and competent with using them and really understand how they work. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to show you how to create submodules on your local machine. No GitHub, no external repository, just create submodules locally. Then I'm going to show you how to actually create some submodules from 2 separate repositories that are hosted on GitHub. It's probably the more common way that you'll work with and create submodules. From there, I'm going to show you the process of cloning a Git project that has submodules. It's a little different. You got to take a couple of extra steps there. After that, I'm going to show you how sometimes the code in the submodule can get out of sync with the code in the parent repository, and how you can do a Git submodules update to rectify that situation. And then finally, and there's a lot of misinformation on the internet about how to do this, I'm going to show you how to actually delete a submodule. So I hope you enjoy this set of tutorials. What I wanted to talk to you about here is how to add a submodule to Git. And in this particular tutorial, I'm not going to pull from GitHub or GitLab. I've got other tutorials that show you how to create submodules from remote repositories by cloning them in. In this example, I'm just going to start from scratch. So I'm going to create a basic Git repository. I'm going to call it Surface. I am then going to create another repository under that Surface repository called Submarine. And then I'm going to add that submodule, the Submarine submodule, to the Surface module. And I'm going to do it all without the use of an external repository. So as I said, if you want to see how to add a submodule from GitLab or GitHub, you can take a look at the next tutorial in this series. But this one, I'm going to do it all locally from scratch, just adding the submodule and creating those submodules right at the Git command line. I guess all things start out by opening up the terminal here. I'm in my desktop. I'm going to create a new directory called Surface and move in there. And I'm just going to initialize a top-level repository. And of course, now that I've got the top-level repository created, I'm going to add a couple of boats to my Surface defense. There we go. I've got a tug destroyer and a frigate. Add those to the index and commit those as well. There we go. Now we've got a nice little Git repository here. I've even got nice little commit there, add Surface fleet. Life is good. Now, imagine I had a separate but integrated repository. Maybe I've got a submarine fleet that I want to work on, but I want to keep that sort of separate from the Surface fleet. But I think you could imagine that, you know, those two things are somewhat intertwined. Well, what you can do is you can create a submodule and put all of the submarine related files into that submodule. It'll all be sort of under the same Git workspace at the top level, but the commits are separate, the index is separate, and even the different external repositories like maybe GitLab or GitHub repository that you can connect to, push and pull with, will be separate as well. So that's what I want to do here. So now I'm not going to pull in a repository. I'll do that in another tutorial. So if you want to see how to create a submodule that's pulled in from GitHub or GitLab, I've got another one of those available. But right here, I'm just going to create everything on the local system. So I'm going to make a directory. Got a little directory called Submarines. I'm going to cd into it. And I'm going to initialize a Git repository here. So I've initialized a Git repository. It's always a good idea just to add one commit to it at least. So I'm going to touch a little nuclear file there, add it to the repository, add it to the index. And there we go. We've got a submarine added to the fleet. Now, both of these Git repositories are separate from each other right now. I want to make the submarines a submodule of the Surface project. So what I do is go back into the Surface project, and I can actually now use that git submodule add command. I'm going to go with git submodule add the name of the directory. And it says, all right, you have now added an existing repository at submarines to the index. Now the question is, did that really do that? To make sure that this was successful, what you want to see is that .git modules in the root of your project. That .git modules is going to be the key to linking that submodule submarines to the Surface Git project. So I see it there. I'm happy about that. I'm going to add those files to the index. I'm going to put a little git commit message in there that submarines has been added. And take a look at my git commit history, and you can see now I've got 2 commits here. Add the Surface fleet and add submodules, but also notice that the commit that was made in that submodule, which was, I think, git commit add submarine to fleet, is not listed here because that module is separate. It's a submodule. And there you go. That's how you can set up and create submodules in Git. Hey, Cameron McKenzie at CameronMCNZ on Twitter if you want to follow. In this tutorial, I want to talk to you how to create submodules with GitHub. Now, I did a previous tutorial where I demonstrated how submodules work and how to create them in Git. But in that example, I did everything locally. So I created the parent repository, and then created the submodule repository. I did it all with Git in it. There wasn't any push or pull to a remote repository. So in this example, what I'd like to do is demonstrate how to associate 2 otherwise unrelated GitHub repositories and make one the parent and make the other the submodule. I think this will be a little bit more applicable to people as opposed to just doing init right out of the bat and doing the whole thing locally. So I'm over on GitHub, and you can see I've got 2 repositories here. One for Surface, that's my Surface defense. Got 1 frigate in there right now, and I've got a list of submarines as well. I got a nuclear submarine in my arsenal. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to clone this Surface repository. I want to work heavily on that, but also it's associated with submarines. So I want submarines to be a submodule that I can work on when I work with this Surface project. So I want to link these 2 together, make submarines a submodule of Surface. So how do you do that? Well, I've got a folder here called Git example, and I'm going to open up a terminal window in that particular folder. And I guess I should probably go into my repositories. Here's the submarines repository. Here's the Surface one. I'm going to clone Surface first. So I'll copy that. Clone that repository. And there we go. Life is good. I can do a git log. Oh, actually, got to move into it first. And then git log. And there we go. We can see we've got 1 commit where they created the frigate. If I do ls, we've got the frigate.html file. So there we go. I've got a nice little clone repository. But I want to make this submarines repository a submodule of Surface. So how do I do that? Well, I get the clone URL once again. However, I go into terminal, and when I'm in terminal, making sure that I'm in the Surface Git repository, I say git submodule add, and now I put in the URL of that repository. And as you can see, all of a sudden that repository gets moved in there. A couple of other interesting things happen as well. So you notice that I've got that submarine subfolder, so that's where all the code is. But also if I do a git status, you can see that there's a new module created called Git modules. That's really important. If you don't have Git modules there after you've added the submodule, you're going to run into a problem. It hasn't worked properly. So of course, with that added in there, I also want to do a git add, git commit, and there we go. We've now got that submodule committed to that to the Surface project. Now, what happens if I actually add a file here? So in the Surface defense, I've got a frigate, but you know what? It always makes sense to have a tugboat as well. So why don't I add a tugboat in there? We've added that tug. So now I've done a little bit of work on that Surface repository. Now, what if I actually want to go in and add a sub? I've only got one nuclear sub in there. Let's add a Jai class submarine there. I think that's from the Chinese Army. We've now got another file in here. I'll add that to the index and I'll commit that file. Okay, now I've got that sub added. Now, if I go back to the Surface project, now I've got this new tugboat file here. If I go in and take a look at my Surface project over on GitHub, I've only got the frigate there. And so in the project, I've got frigate and tugboat. Also in submarines, I've only got the nuclear submarine, but I also added that Jia class to the submodule as well. What do you think would happen if I actually did a push from Surface? Do you think it would update Surface and update submarines? Or do you think it would update Surface only? Well, the only way to find out is to try. So I want to do a git push origin here. It says it's going to push up to the remote repository. It says indeed it is headed over to GitHub surface.git, and the push is successful. And if I do a refresh here, notice that I've got the reference to the module, submarines there. I've got the .git modules file. Might be interesting to take a look at that. Notice it says that there's a submodule called submarines, lists the path to it. We've got our tugboat file here, but again, in that submarines folder, I've got that jia.html file. If I come over here and update submarines, notice that it's not in there. So doing that push from the parent repository, it's not causing a push to the submodule there. So if you want to do a push in that submodule, I'm in the submodule now, submarines. I'm going to push from here. I'm going to come over to GitHub in this one. I do the same thing for the same tutorial for GitLab if you're interested. And now you can see that that jia.html file is now there. So now I've actually pushed that file up. And so you can see that both of those repositories are working independently, even though they are indeed linked together through this submarines Git module linkage that you can see here on the GitHub user interface. And there you go. That's how you work with submodules in GitHub. Hey, I'm Cameron McKenzie. I'm the editor-in-chief over at TheServerSide.com. You can follow me on Twitter at CameronMCNZ. Right now, I want to talk to you about Git submodules, and specifically how to clone a Git repository that has a submodule and get all of those files associated with the submodule, not just the Git repository itself. As you can see, I've got two repositories here, Surface and Submarines. Surface is the parent topic and Submarines is the submodule. So if I take a look at that parent repository, Surface, you'll see it links to the submodule Submarines. Take a look at Submarines and there's nuclear.html in there. And what I'd like to do is I would actually like to clone that Surface repository. So clone Surface. And as I clone Surface, I want to be able to get all of the code in Submarines as well. And it's not actually that straightforward. So the first thing you need to do is get that URL associated with that Surface repository. So I think I've got that copied there. And then you open up a bash shell in the repository you want to clone to. So I'm going to open up git bash here. And then I'm just going to do a clone. Now that will end up bringing in the Surface project. So we'll open up Surface here. And hey, it looks like it brought in the submarine submodule. But I'll open that up and you'll see there's nothing in there. And so if you want to get something in there, the first step is to just go git submodule init. And of course you have to do that from the folder, cd surface. And there we go. We can do the git submodule init. I wasn't in the git repository there. So now we've done the git init, and next we just do the git submodule update. And as we do that, you should see files pop up here inside that submarine folder. Hopefully we'll see that nuclear.html file. And there we go. We've now successfully brought in not just that Surface repository, but we've brought in submarines as well. And there's that nuclear file, which we can confirm was actually part of that submarine submodule. And there you go. That's how easy it is to just clone a project and subsequently clone the submodule. It's git clone, git init, git submodules update. Hey, I'm Cameron McKenzie. I'm the editor-in-chief over at TheServerSide.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at CameronMCNZ. And in this particular tutorial, I want to talk to you about how the git submodule update works. And for that matter, I want to show you a little bit about how a parent module links to a particular commit in a submodule. As you can see, I've got two repositories here that I work on with this example. I've got the Surface and the Submarine. Surface is the top level project, the Submarine is the submodule. And if I take a look at Surface, you'll notice I've got a bunch of surface attack vehicles there. I got my destroyer, my frigate, and my tug. And I've got a reference to the Submarine submodule, 35DA3BP0. That'll come in handy a little bit later. And you'll see in this Submarine submodule, it's got 1, 2, 3 HTML files and a README, so a nuclear sub, a Russian sub, and a Chinese sub there. What I'd like to do is just demonstrate, well, how you do git submodule updates and what the implication is of these different commit IDs and these different files. So now, in order to work through this example, the first thing I need to do is just clone that Surface repository, and I'm going to open up a git bash shell, throw in the appropriate command, recurse submodules. That stops me from having to do the init and update after I do the initial clone. And if I dig through here, you'll notice that I've got the Submarine submodule, I've got the Surface top level module, and I've got 1, 2, 3 HTML files in there. That's exactly what you would expect if you took a look at the Surface project. There's 1, 2, 3 HTML files right there. And in the Submarine project, we've got 1, 2, 3 HTML files in a README. So when we go into the Submarine module, we should have 3 HTML files in a README, and we don't. So what's going on here? Well, if you notice that commit ID of the Surface module, in the Surface module here, we've got Submarine and as a submodule. And the last time this Surface project had a commit, it was pointing at commit ID 35D of the Submarine project. Now, if I click on that commit ID of the Submarine project, you notice it's only got one file in there, that nuclear file. It doesn't have the other ones. If I go and take a look at the master repository, with this particular commit here for E, it's got the 3 HTML files. But that's not the one that's associated with the Surface project that I cloned. So how do I get these files in here? Well, let me see. There's my project. I got a CD into the actual directory. We can see my files here, and there's Submarine. Now I want those files. Now, what some people think you do is you think you do just an update. So let's take a look at that Submarine folder there. I'm going to do, and as I said, this isn't going to work, but I'll do git submodule update. And it's going to think for a little while. So it's doing something, but nothing gets updated here.
So that's just going to pull in your remote references and information about various different commits, but it's not going to merge anything. We want to actually not only do this, but merge it to master and bring in those 3 files. So what you actually want to do is you want to have the -- remote flag on here. So git submodule update -- remote. And now this is not only going to update the various references for this submodule, but it's also going to pull those different files onto my master branch. So watch this. It's thinking about it. It's pulling things in. And all of a sudden, we've got 1, 2, 3 HTML files in that directory. And so that's the key. If you want to actually update those files, then you have to do that git update remote. And there's other options too. You can always just go into these individual modules, and when you're in those individual modules, you can just do a git fetch and a git merge, or even a git pull. That's fine as well. Otherwise, if you want to do it from that parent level, it's git submodule update and -- remote. Now, of course, we don't want to run into that problem again where we don't have those updated files. So let's go into that Surface project. Do a git add, always a good idea. A git commit -m add remote update, and git push origin. That should push everything up to GitLab. And now if I go over to GitLab, take a look at the original repository, do a refresh, you'll notice now that the submarine is no longer pointing to the commit ID that was 3.5 and change. Now it's 4E848, and that is the commit that has all the files that I want. And there you go. That's sort of the basics of the Git submodule remote update. Hey, I'm Cameron McKenzie. I'm the editor-in-chief at TheServerSide.com, and I want to tell you how you can delete a Git submodule. So as you can see, I've got my Surface repository cloned under Git example, and there's the sub menu right there, the submodule. That's called submarines. Now, how do I delete submarines from this Surface repository? Well, there's a couple of things I got to worry about. I got to worry about actually submarines. I got to worry about that modules folder, and also if you take a look at the config file under .git, you'll notice that there's a reference to it in there as well, submarines right there. So how do you do this? How do you actually get rid of everything? Well, there's a few commands that you can run. And the first one is just git remove, git rm. And so I'll open up a git bash shell, and I'll say git rm, and my module is called submarines. Thinks about it for just a little while. And there you go. Notice that submarines is gone. So that's been removed. Now, is my module removed as well? Under that modules folder, we don't have the modules removed either. I guess I could just delete that folder, but I like being cool, and being cool means actually using the bash shell. So let's delete that. There we go, submarines is gone. And finally, what's going on in our little git config file there? Well, we've still got that submodule in there. From here, I can just delete that, click save. And there we go, my submodule has been deleted. From here, what can I do? Well, maybe I'll do a little bit of a git add. Maybe I'll do a git commit. And then finally, git push origin. And now with that pushed origin, I can go back to GitHub, take a look at the Surface project. You notice that the Surface project previously had a link to submarines in it. That's the link to the submodule. I'll do a refresh. And you notice that link to the submodules, link to the submarines submodule is gone. Now, that's only gone from the link. You can see that if I go to my repositories, I definitely still have submarines and Surface there. But the key is under Surface, that link to the submodule is gone. And there you go. That's how easy it is to delete submodules in Git. And there you go. It's not that hard to delete a submodule in Git. If you want to learn more about Git, GitHub, GitLab, even anything that's going on in the server side, head over to TheServerSide.com. I'm the editor over there. And if you want to learn more about me, you can follow me on Twitter @CameronMCNZ.